Good morning and welcome to Business Lens on Rapid Television, Abuja. On today's Business Lens, we take a step back to examine the defining economic, financial and market stories that shaped Nigeria in 2025, talking about the reforms, the risks, and the signals investors are watching as we head into 2025. From IMF-backed reforms to capital market discipline, energy supply shifts, regional aviation changes, oil output recovery and market performance. This episode is a data-driven recap of the big stories that mattered in the world of business. So let's look at some of the year's hot business trends, starting from the IMF. Credits the removal of fuel subsidies, tighter monetary policy, improved FX market operations, and the end of deficit monetization for strengthening resilience earlier this year as growth accelerated to 3.4% in 2024 with projections of 3.4% growth in 2025. Also, Nigeria's inflation trend shifted decisively in 2025 with headline inflation easing back-to-back till 16.05%, marking one of the sharpest disinflation runs in recent years. Next is Nigeria's aviation sector suffered a sharp slowdown in 2025 as growth collapsed to 2.88% in Q3, which went down from 30.60% in Q2 and 57.21% in Q1, according to the MBS. Next is Nigeria's economy maintained a steady growth path in 2025 despite sector-specific pressures, with nominal GDP rising to 113.59 trillion naira in Q3 2025, which went up from 96.16 trillion naira back in 2024. And in the markets, Nigeria's stock and capital markets delivered one of their strongest performance in recent history in 2025, despite macroeconomic headwinds. We will look at these stories and more. Stay with us. I am Divine Alex, and joining me is Economist Abiola Adekunle from Keto Market.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning and welcome.
It's good to be here.
Thank you, welcome.
Compliments of the season.
I wish you the best of the season. Okay, let's start with the hottest stories, where the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, delivered one of its strongest endorsements of Nigeria's economic direction in years during its 2025 Article IV consultation, commending monetary and fiscal authorities for reforms that have improved macroeconomic stability and restored investor confidence. The IMF also credited the removal of fuel subsidies, tighter monetary policy, improved FX market operations, and the end of deficit monetization for strengthening resilience. Growth accelerated to 3.4% sometime in 2024, with projections of 3.4% growth in 2025 and around 3.5% in the medium term, driven by higher oil outputs, Dangote refinery production, and a resilient service sector. On inflation, the fund noted a sharp moderation to 23.7% year-on-year in April 2025, which went down from a 31% average in 2024, supported by naira stabilization, improved food supply, and tight macro policies. The IMF also welcomed banking sector recapitalization, FX reforms that improved price discovery and liquidity, and progress on the AML CFT frameworks, while urging Nigeria to exit the FATF grey list, which Nigeria did, by the way. However, it warned that downside risks, which include global shocks, oil price volatility, securing challenges, and rising financing costs, remain material, stressing the need for sustained reforms, targeted social protection, and growth supportive fiscal discipline. Now, let me come to you, Abiola. How have the IMF projection, aided Nigeria on its path to great economic breakthroughs this year, 2025?
As with IMF, everyone knows that they sometimes play both sides of the field. But with their projections, with their information, and with all this data they've released, I think it has largely helped Nigeria in planning. Why I say this is because Nigeria on its own is not doing too well, or has not been doing too well in terms of data. Okay. I'm someone that has always cried and shouted of, in terms of anything that has to do with data, because how do you plan? How do you know what exactly to do if you don't have the data to inform your decisions. Okay, so IMF bringing out a whole lot of projections, telling us that this and this. Of course, some of those things are gotten from us too. But I'm saying wrapping it all up, in one, bite, goes a long way to assist us, okay, in planning and strategically positioning ourselves for 2026. So, yes, there are projections that have done a whole lot. The reason also is that when it comes to economic data, it always sounds gibberish, always sounds like jargons to an average Nigerian. It's just like going into medical field and they keep throwing up words. You just look at fish out of water, but with what they've rounded up together, it's easy for a layman to be able to say, okay, this is summary of what's going on with Nigeria, for us to carry a lot of people along. So yes, their projections have really helped, and I think it will help Nigeria position properly, okay, in planning, in budgeting, capital, infrastructure, almost every part of the economy for 2026.
Okay, so let's look at the sectors that were affected positively. Yeah. What sectors were affected positively, and are there any sectors that were affected negatively as well? Well,
let's stay on the positives first. For this year, if you look at this year in isolation, I would say sincerely Nigeria has not done badly. If we're looking at the money market, we've done well. If we're looking at telecoms, we've done well. If you're looking at agriculture, not so bad, not so well, but it's good, in a way. It's not fantastic, but it's good. If we're also looking at crude, we're talking about the crude, to a very large extent, we're also done well, because if you look at 2025 in isolation, it's better than the preceding years. We're able to, at some point, meet up with our quota. We got to a point that we're even asking for more quota. We reduced a lot of stealing, oil theft. So that also did well in that sector. Also in that sector, we're talking about Dangote refinery.
Yes.
Something that actually went, kickstart properly this year and put us on the global map. So yes, these are the positive sectors that I've seen for this year, which sincerely is not bad.
Good. Okay, so let's look at how sustainable this is. How sustainable is Nigeria's current macroeconomic stability if global oil prices weaken or capital inflows slow in coming the next year?
If they slow down, if it comes down, if the price of crude oil goes down, and if investment slows, any country will feel the pain. Any country will feel the brunt. So my own prayer, even though in economics there's nothing like prayer, is that let these things not slow down. And the reason is because we need to maintain stability and consolidate first. And our consolidation will need years. So we need at least the crude oil price to be above $60 per barrel, so that we can continue to stabilize, build on whatever is on ground, and be strong enough, because now is not the time for you to even go lower, because even at 60 is quite low. And we have been able to manage and keep our head out of water. Also, in terms of investments coming in, I actually foresee a lot of much investment coming in next year. The reason is because we look at the stability of the currency. It's a very big pointer. You look at the fact that this year was not bad. We had people making an average of 40% or more in the money market, that's stock market in Nigeria. So this, I feel, is a footstool or like a basis for people to actually climb and bring in much more investment next year. This year has been relatively, stable. Apart from the fact that we had that 4 trillion, fiasco about a month ago, which was largely due to, lack of clarity on the tax. Also, people taking out their profits for the year, which is expected anyway. So, apart from that, it's still a very good year. Very good year. Sincerely, you have some stocks making up to 200%. I was doing the review yesterday. I was like, wow. We had about 4 or 5 stocks during the year that made, Friday anyway, that made up to 200% in this year, meaning that if you had put in $1 billion, you would have at least another billion. Which is a lot of money. So I feel that if the prices of crude oil goes down, and we also have declined investment, which I don't foresee, then it might shake a little bit the foundation we've been trying to build in 2025.
But we have successfully built this foundation.
It's still drying up. It's not well dried up yet.
Okay. Now, while the IMF applauded Nigeria's reform momentum in mid-2025, the real test has always been inflation. And by the end of the year, the numbers began to tell a different story. This is taking us to the next story, where Nigeria's headline inflation moderated to 16.05%, marking a second consecutive decline and one of the sharpest improvements that has been recorded in 2025. Let's note that the rebasing of inflation by the NBS helped us get to this 16%. The slowdown is said to reflect a combination of tight monetary policy, relative naira stability, like he mentioned, easing food supply pressures, and the impact of earlier structural reforms that was flagged by the IMF during its article review. Now, let's recall that inflation had averaged above 30% in 2024, making the 2025 deceleration a major macroeconomic turning point. Core inflation also eased as exchange rate volatility reduced imported inflation pressures, while improved fuel supply and logistics helped contain cost push factors. Analysts also noted that while inflation remains elevated relative to long-term targets, the move to 16.05% signals that disinflation is finally gaining traction, which is setting a potentially more stable foundation for growth, consumer spending, and investor decisions ahead of 2026. Now, let me come to you. We cannot take away the fact that it is the rebasing from the MBS that contributed to us, drastically reducing and getting to 16.05%. What could, reverse these gains in 2026?
The major thing for me that drives our inflation, for example, in Nigeria, has been food, which is a core part of inflation. Apart from the rebasing bringing down the figures, I would like to say that at least in the past few weeks, personally I've experienced that the price of food has gone down. Price of a bag of rice have gone down, and we used to say earlier this year when inflation figures was going down, that it's not about the figures going down. It's about the fact that we should be able to feel it also. We should be able to go into the market and say, price of meat don't go down. Rice is now so and so. And that is what we now are experiencing. Looking into next year, what can also reverse it, can also be still food security. Because for me, this is the way it works. If an household is spending 100% of their income on food, then that leaves a very low amount, very low disposable amount for other things. Now, if there is a low disposable amount for other things, it means that the goods in the market will have fewer people that can purchase them, which gradually leads to inflation. So if we can actually secure food next year and drive it even lower, well, when I mean secure food, that means that you have to secure the farmers, you have to secure the value chain including transportation, storage, preservation, and packaging, making it available to the end users. Now, if all that can be protected, we might even be seeing lower inflation figures. But if this is not done, and we actually don't secure the farmers, the farms, then we would be seeing a rise in food costs, which will also affect inflation. So I know there are other components of inflation, but I want to major on food because food has a spiral effect. It has a ripple effect. Imagine an household spending 5% of their income on food. That means there's a whole 95% to do a whole lot of other things.
Okay, so how quickly can falling inflation translate into real relief for households and businesses, especially food, like you already mentioned, energy and credit card? It is no longer news because I also have a personal experience with the fact that I think beginning of this year, I was able to purchase a bag of rice for 100,000 plus. But this year now, towards, I think it was last week or so, I got a bag of rice for less than 60,000 naira.
There's 52, there's like the max I saw when I went to a very big popular store in Abuja, it was 62. That was the max I saw. And they had about 10 variants. You know, there were some of 55 and all that. So I agree with you completely.
Okay, so does this disinflation give the CBN room to recalibrate interest rate in 2026?
Not yet. We are still going there. I think Nigeria we are used to jumping, you know, quickly want to go to the next level while we've not mastered the level we are in. The same thing happened with crude oil. We hit our quota, I think, once or twice in a row. I think we hit it twice in a row. Other ones were scattered, and we're already asking for an increase. Sometimes you need to perfect where you are, balance, be an authority there before you start considering going to the next level. So I think it's too early for the CBN to start thinking of anything. Let's watch it for now. Like the currency exchange rate now, for some time now it has been very stable. If you want to make any, do anything in that sector, in that area, I can say, okay, it's been stable for like 5 months, for like 4 months. It's a ground for you to actually do something. Okay, but something that, okay, let's say the price of rice now, let's assume that it comes to 50,000 naira per bag or 50 kg, and it stays like that for 7-8 months. Then we can start discussing about, okay, we want to do the, because we don't have, like I said, the foundation is not dry yet. It's still wet, but it's there.
So what sectors do you think pose the biggest inflation risks in 2026?
Food. Anyway, food, we're also looking at, because of the new tax laws coming in January, I think it might have a ripple effect on so many other sectors. The reason I'm saying that is because when you cut the income of people, because taxing one way or the other is cutting income. So when somebody makes, let's say, 10 million and 1 million is not available to him anymore, or 2 million is not available to him anymore, then that 8 million will go to survival, will basically go to basics. Okay, so it's going to affect majorly things that are not like things that are not basics, that are not 100% necessary, that are not necessities. We're talking about things like telecoms, entertainment, services. Food definitely would always be there. Clothing would be there. All those kind of housing also. We might be seeing a whole lot of inflation in those areas because people would go back to survival.
Okay, so according to you now, personally, how would you describe 2025 when we talk about inflation?
2025 has been a good year in terms of inflation. The beginning was rough, but towards the latter end of the year, I'm talking about the last quarter and the third quarter, we started seeing a slowing down of inflation, and in the fourth quarter we started feeling it. You know, I always say that when the figures come out, okay, before you now actually feel it, it will take a while because there's always this buffer. It's not like this. You know, you don't say, okay,
people expect it to be magic.
No. It's just like saying the price of crude. Recently, I think Dangote released a statement that is reducing the price of PMS, and it's just normal because the price of crude on the international scene has been declining for months. You know, the same thing will happen if the price of crude start picking up. We also expect a delayed effect, but the effect will come locally of the price of PMS. So inflation figures coming out showing that there's a decline in inflation, as far as they're properly done, would mean that the effect will also follow suit in a couple of weeks or a couple of months.
Okay. Now, while easing inflation should normally translate into cheaper transportation and improved mobility, the reality in Nigeria's aviation sector tells a very different story. I know that we talked about this last week. We touched on it. So Nigeria's aviation sector suffered a sharp slowdown in 2025 as growth collapsed to 2.88% in Q3, which went down from 30.60% in Q2 and 57.21% in Q1, according to the NBS. Despite output rising to 80.98 billion naira in Q3 2025 from 78.71 billion naira a year earlier, the sector's momentum weakened significantly, with aviation contributing just 0.07% of the total GDP, down from 0.08% in Q3 2024, which real growth figures show the sector only recently emerged from contraction, posting 1.60% real growth in Q3 2025 after negative growth throughout 2024. Now, this slowdown comes amid skyrocketing domestic airfares, with ticket prices on key routes rising rising by as much as 150 to 200%, pushing fares beyond 300,000 naira, and in some cases 400,000 naira to 600,000 naira, and even more for one-way trips between Abuja and Lagos and other parts of Nigeria, south to southeast, and the rest of them. Now, the surge prompted the Senate to summon the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, and industry stakeholders, warning that excessive fares threaten national mobility and festive travel plans, while the minister insists airlines' cost structures are responsible and not government policy. He listed maintenance and leasing costs as one of the reasons for the hike, among others. So the new data now shows demand pressure and high operating costs are already choking the sector growth. And this challenge comes even as ECOWAS plans to scrap air ticket taxes from January 2026, targeting a 60 to 70% reduction in airfare costs across West Africa, which is a policy direction Nigeria is yet to fully embrace. Now, with aviation growth collapsing to 2.88% despite higher output, now, is Nigeria pricing itself out of air travel?
First of all, let's look at what makes a sector grow. What makes a sector grow is basically patronage, access, what else? Inclusivity. In another sector, for example, let's look at telecoms, for example. An average person can access a phone, okay, whether touchlight, whether whatever phone can access. And also, it is affordable. You could load 100 naira recharge card, 200 naira recharge card, and you could make calls. Inclusivity means that, you know, it actually appeals to a wide range of people. Now, aviation in Nigeria for the longest, especially when it has to do with airplanes, because they are not the only ones in aviation, has been seen as a luxury. And the more you see it as a luxury, the more you would not have that inclusiveness. What you need is volume, not profitability. I'm talking about the government now.
Yes.
What they need in the aviation sector is volume. Now, when we talk about volume, it means that we need to have more birds, planes in the air. We need to have airports being saturated with passengers and the passengers being serviced optimally. Now, when this continues to happen, apart from the fact that the airlines will make more money, other services around the airlines, around the aviation will also spike. For example, if you have 10 flights, you know, leaving the Abuja airport every day, just an example, and each flight contains 50 people, that's 50 times 10, 500. That means they will have 500 snacks. But if you now multiply that by 10 and it goes into 5,000 people, that means the price and the volume of snacks needed will also go up. And this will start expanding that particular sector. So for aviation, what we need to do, first of all, is to remove that mindset that traveling by air is a luxury. It's not a luxury.
Okay, so before we go deeper
Go ahead.
Before we go deeper into this conversation, let's take a moment to see how the Senate summoned Festus Keyamo and the lawmakers as we bring you extracts from the Senate session and the government's response to the airfare surge. So let's just play this video and then we could talk more on what all of this entails.
Okay.
That we should, as a matter of urgency, invite the relevant stakeholders in the aviation industry, including the Minister of Aviation, NCA, and FAN and others, to a closed-door meeting with the Senate to discuss the abysmal rise in airfares, to avoid exploitation of Nigerians, and also to alleviate the suffering of people and avoid disruption in travels during this Christmas period. And that this should be done immediately. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we believe
no corresponding increase in aviation fuel or aviation taxes by Federal Aviation Authority. FAN. Thirdly, sir, there will thirdly issue related to foreign exchange. I'm of the opinion that in the past, there is this intervention by the Central Bank of Nigeria, while so many airline operators were given some consideration, in some exemption, concessional rates in the Effah.
And resolves to invite
all relevant
stakeholders
in the aviation sector,
including the Minister of Aviation,
to
urgently appear before the Senate in order to go on.
In order to address this airfare hike in the aviation sector.
Thank you. Come.
For time, or you're not. Mr. President, in the last 2-3 months, Nigerians have been complaining seriously about the price hike of airline and finding it very difficult to travel from one destination to the other.
Take your seat.
Mr. President, can you believe it that from Abuja to Lagos ranges from 400 to 650,000. And then from here to Enugu is about 500,000. Even from here to Ilorin is about 450,000. When we noticed all this, the committee, we decided to even investigate further. And we now find out that cut across, people cannot afford to travel. And looking at the festive period that is coming up now, Mr. President, it is important we wave in to help Nigeria because of this festive period that is coming, that people want to move from one place to the other, particularly since our road is becoming a bit difficult to travel.
Okay, so you heard that, right? Because he was talking about the fact that he investigated and it was not looking like there's extra cost. So why is it going up?
Yeah.
Now, this brings me to the ECOWAS part, right?
Yeah.
Because they're also planning to remove air ticket taxes to cut fares by up to 60 to 70%. So why has Nigeria not adopted a similar tax relief model to ease airfare pressures?
Well, I think with the publicity that this is getting, let's hope that the National Assembly will actually do something to it, because those taxes, I think, are actually what is spiking. Not the recent price, though. Naturally, the price, if you see air tickets for 150,000, maybe taxes could be up to 70, you know, or 80,000. Now, I said the last time that there is no reason and there is no basis for airlines to increase their prices to as much as 200, 300%. And the reason is this: there are categories of seats. If the categories of seats in an airline or in a vertical airplane is between 100,000 to 190,000 economy between Lagos and Abuja, then what I should see, if there's a whole lot of people booking, is sold out, sold out, sold out. I shouldn't see 500,000, 600,000. From where? Did they put new chairs? Did they add new category to it? No.
But Festus Keyamo came out to say that, that he's not in charge, he's not
Who's the Minister of Aviation? I don't
understand. Then that this is coming from maintenance, leasing, because they have to travel out to do something on
So what will be the excuse in February when the prices go back to 150? How do we explain that? The maintenance has suddenly disappeared. The leasing is no more there. Come on. See, there's a level of argument we should have in Nigeria that will say, oh, these guys at least there's this level of education we have. There's no need for this anyhowness, as I'll put it, that is coming up every time we have a festive season, especially Christmas during the end of towards the end of the year. So for me, there's still no defense, and I think that the National Assembly should actually look more into it, you know, touchlight it, scrutinize it, because if you push it apart, call them one by one and say, okay, why are you charging 500,000 for a 1 hour trip? Tell us exactly what is the problem. Is it that the fuel has increased? Is it that taxes have increased in the airport? Why? Tell us specifically. This thing shouldn't be a roundabout thing. It's something where you don't even need to set a committee for it. Just an invitation. You can call their PRO, their MD, anybody can come. Just a very small, just give us, tell the Nigerian population why do we have 500,000? Then let them explain themselves.
Okay, so
because we still see it as luxury. It's not luxury.
It is not supposed to be, actually. But with aviation growth now collapsing to 2.88% despite higher output, right? What does this mean for sector sustainability?
What do you mean by higher output?
The fact that right now they're saying,
let me tell you
because of the current price.
Let me tell you a short story. I think in 2019 or 2020, I was on a flight, September 30th, I can't forget, from Lagos to Abuja, and the weather condition was so terrible that we could not land. Okay, so we went back to Lagos and refueled and took off again. Before taking off, we called Abuja. Abuja said weather is clear, come. We said okay, no problem. Took off again. We got to Abuja, it was worse. We could not even descend. We were in a thunderstorm, it was so bad. Pilot had to go all the way up. I don't know how high he went that day until we cleared the thunder, and went back to Lagos again. We got back to Lagos to 1 in the night, around to 1 a.m. But inside the plane, we were debating that, okay, instead of going back to Lagos, where can we go to? Can we go to Kano and land? Should we go to Minna? Should we go? Where can we go instead of going all the way to Lagos? And the answers I was getting was just crazy. And that was the day I found out that a lot of the airports in Nigeria are sunset airports. They are airports that planes cannot land at night because most likely there will be no power. They only operate from dawn till dusk. So what do you mean by output? When we're talking about output, like I said, there should be this inclusiveness. There should be this widening of your services. Now, if you're widening services, we should have at least 10 airports in Nigeria that can operate round the clock. Instead of we increasing the costs to 500,000, 600,000, what if these airports can actually operate 24 hours? That means that you can take a flight to Enugu from Abuja 2 a.m. during this yellow tide season, and you will land, and the price will remain the same. So instead of the flights operating just 12 hours a day, they could actually operate 24 hours just for this time. You could actually have more planes coming to Nigeria. Also find a way to partner with the Ministry of Aviation, make sure that it works, while they can also service Nigeria during this time. I think that is a better conversation, a better discussion to have than increasing the price. You always need to know how to go low and wide. That is why we see companies like Microsoft being able to attend to the whole world instead of choosing a few people and get maximum gain from it.
But what do you think is causing this collapsing right now?
There's no... That's what I'm trying to say. You said there's a greater output. I'm saying, where's the output? If there's an output, then there won't be a collapse. There's actually no output as output is meant to be. Raising the price of airfare is not output. Having more people moving between cities is output. If you say, okay, in 2024, you had 1 million passengers in a month in Abuja airport that traveled, and you're not saying that the same month in 2025 you have 3-4 million, then that is greater output. But you cannot say that 1 million people in 2024 flew from Abuja airport, and now in 2025 the same month, the same 1 million people, but they are paying double the fare, and you say that is output. Is not output. Okay,
so if inflation is easing, right, but airfares remain extremely high, should Nigerians expect relief in 2026?
No, which relief? Or
will aviation costs continue to rise regardless of macro
aviation should not continue to rise. This is the work of what's it called? The Ministry of Aviation. This is their job. They are meant to oversee these things. Because, see, where there is no law, there is no crime. Where there is no enforcement of law, there's practically no crime. So they are the ones to say that let this price not go beyond this. Like, see, people cannot just jack up their prices anyhow. There are so many associations in the aviation sector, both for the airplanes, for the people working there, for the ministry. So I don't think somebody just wake up one day and just say, oh yeah, change that price to 600. Oh yeah, change that price. I think there should be some level of regularization going on there. So the government has to step in, okay, and fine-tune this whole thing. and make sure that we actually expand in the right way we're meant to expand, like other countries and other continents do it. Otherwise, it will keep going up, nobody will be brought to book, nobody will be blamed for anything, and inflation will continue to rise.
Okay, let's move to the Nigeria's GDP growth, right? Because it's growing. This year is looking like we made a lot of progress. Now, what does it say about Nigeria's growth model when headline GDP improves, but key sectors like aviation, for example, is critical for trade, tourism, and labor mobility are slowing sharply?
Well, the growth in the GDP sector has not really been fantastic. They've been growth, but we'll say growth now, growth, but in reality, there is a level of growth that happens that doesn't really need much push. It doesn't really need much intervention. I'm not saying the government have not done anything. I'm saying that there is a way you could walk from here to the bus stop and you arrive at the bus stop irrespective. But there's a way you could be assisted with a car and you get to the bus stop faster. What I'm saying is that the growth is there, but the growth looks more like a growth that even without much input, that growth will still happen. Now, the growth is good, I'm happy about it, and I'm looking forward to 2026 because I have a feeling we're going to have much more growth. But for us to have much more growth, we have to now look at these sectors that are declining sharply and take some of the advices, call stakeholders, actually look at it holistically and say, how do we grow these sectors? Because at the end of the day, now different ingredients, you know, they make soup sweet. So if the aviation sector is growing, there was a time I was talking about CBN, and I said that they've actually done a lot. And if other sectors can do that just much, like they, yeah, you will see that the GDP we're talking about is a byproduct of every sector doing what they are meant to do. If you exercise every day, you do your exercise, you will see that you looking maybe muscular a little bit is a byproduct of that exercise. The focus should not be the muscles. The focus is just the way of life, the exercise. So the focus in Nigeria economy should not be the GDP. The GDP should be a byproduct of every sector doing their best, not even look, just, let's do our best. Agric, let's do our best. Transportation, let's do our best. Trade, let's do. And at the end of the day, you see that the effect, even they will not believe it that, wow, so the GDP can be this high. So let's reduce the focus on GDP, even though it's very important. Let's focus on our sectors. What are we doing there?
Okay, so can Nigeria sustain its, this 2025 growth momentum into 2026 if cost-sensitive sectors remain under pressure?
There's nothing we cannot do as a nation. So I believe, yes, Nigeria can actually do it if and only if we decide to do it. That's all. Nothing. If I decide to stand up and walk out of the studio now, I'll go. It's just a decision.
If and only if.
Yeah, so we can actually.
Okay, so for the average Nigerian, let's also look at them, right? Does GDP growth in 2025 truly translate into better living standards for a normal, common Nigerian that you just see on the road?
I would say that during the last quarter, there's been a little bit of ease on the cost of living, but we are still far from where we are meant to be. Why I'm saying this is because you see that more than 70% of Nigerians and more than 80% earn below 250,000 per month. If you extract 250,000, you will see that it is almost impossible for a family of 4 to survive on 250,000. By the time you consider feeding, you consider transportation, you consider housing, education, what's it called, where you live, like I was discussing with someone who, she was telling me about the rent in a very interior area, and she said she's so happy that she got a new place, it's 500,000. I said 500,000 in that interior place that is not motorable. She said yes. So you look at the cost of housing, look at the cost of the basics of living. I wouldn't say that Nigerians are there yet in terms of feeling the relief of the GDP. Maybe next year we'll post something better.
Okay, so now let's look at the stock markets, right, and the capital markets, because this year there's been a lot of changes from January down to this time. What would you say about our markets?
It's been brilliant, sincerely. The market has been brilliant. I for one person, I've not really been someone that has been crazy about the capital market because I always feel that there's a whole lot of manipulation that goes on there. But in terms of profits and profitability this year, sincerely, it's been brilliant. And if they can manage this well, if SEC can also do what they need to do, which I trust they would, manage the whole process well, I feel that 2023 is going to be a phenomenal year for the markets, especially for the capital market in Nigeria.
So can the Nigerian stock market sustain this 2025 momentum?
They will go beyond it, that's what I'm saying.
Oh.
They won't only sustain it, they will do better than this year.
What about domestic investors?
We are here. With education, with orientation, with much more publicity, I think that we would have more people locally participating in it. I also feel that with the success of this year, I think January a lot of people are going to ship the funds lying fallow in their bank accounts to the capital markets.
Okay, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Divine.
Economist Abiola Adekunle from Key to Markets. I'm getting it right, right?
Yes, you're doing well.
Okay, and that's how we are going to wrap today's Business Lens. Join us again on Thursday, 11 a.m. for another interesting take as we track the markets, the money, and the moves shaping Nigeria's economy. I am Divine Alex. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to stay with Rapid TV. Bye for now.